Welcome to World War Podcast, giving you your weekly dose of war. Today's special guest, Jack Hertzberg, to talk about American guns and what was used during World War II for the American side. Next episode, we're going to do it with Jack again. He's going to be talking about German firearms. You guys should really join. Jack, I'll give it over to you.
Okay, so today we're going to be going over a number of different weapon systems, all the way to our main battle rifle, to our different machine guns. First up is the M1 Garand, designed by John Garand. This was our main battle rifle all the way through early days of, I guess you could say Vietnam, still in selective service though, mainly by the South Vietnamese. Anyway, so the barrel length on this rifle is going to be about 24 inches, which would give us a really good range, especially against the German bolt-action rifle systems. The caliber is .30-06, would give us a nice powerful punch, could penetrate at least a decent amount of steel. The capacity on this rifle is 8 rounds, and it is fed through an 8-round end-block clip to the top of the rifle, and the effective firing range is about 500 yards, about the maximum you could see with iron sights. Next up was the M1 carbine. You could think of this as a shortened M1 Garand for paratroopers and tank crews. It was a little bit easier to do, but a little bit more powerful than a pistol. This is based off the weapon system designed by John Garand. The barrel length is about 18 inches. The caliber is .30 carbine. This was a pistol cartridge that was converted to a rifle cartridge. The capacity is 15 plus 1 rounds with 1 in the chamber. That would give you the plus 1. The effective firing range is about 300 yards. You can see how this is a carbine compared to our main battle rifle. Next up is our service handgun, the 1911A1. The barrel length was 5.03 inches. The caliber was 45 ACP. The capacity was 7 plus 1 in the chamber, and the effective firing range is 27.3 yards. This was used by officers as they did not need to carry a rifle because they were commanding the troops, not usually shooting at them, or not usually shooting at the enemy. The B.A.R. is the Browning automatic rifle. This was before the days of what you would call modern-day military service rifles. This was a full auto gun, but it was a little bit heavy, weighing at about 21 pounds. This gun's barrel was 24 inches. The caliber was .30-06, the same as our other service rifle. The capacity is 20 rounds. This is an open bolt weapon system, so you would not get that plus 1. The effective firing range was 1,500 yards, and the cyclic rate was 500 to 650 rounds per minute, depending on your manufacturer. Next up was our main machine gun of the World War II time period, all the way through early days of Vietnam before the M60. The barrel length was 24 inches. The 24, as you can see, was the standard of American weapon systems. The caliber is .30-06, and our capacity is either 125 round belt or a 250 round belt. These were cloth belts before the days of linked machine gun belts. The effective firing range was 1,500 yards, and the cyclic rate was 400 to 600, although the majority of them were 500. Next up is our service submachine gun, the Thompson M1A1. The barrel length was 10.52 inches. The caliber was 45 ACP, the same as our 1911A1. The capacity was 20 to 30 rounds or 50 rounds for a drum magazine. The 20 to 30 was a stick magazine. The effective firing rate was 164 yards, and the rate of fire was 700. This could be up or down depending on the way it was manufactured. The last was our sniper rifle, the M1903A4. The barrel length was 24 inches, again the standard. The caliber is .30-06, and the capacity was 5 plus 1. The 1 is in the chamber. The effective firing range is 1,100 yards with a scope, which is still good by today's standard. This was a highly accurate rifle, and actually part of it is still used in a different amount of countries.
Jack, for all of those who don't know everything about guns, I have a few questions for you. For the American troops, which do you think was the most used gun, just as overall, for the troops in the European theater?
Well, just by numbers, it's going to be the M1 Garand, as that was the main service rifle. So everyone who wasn't in the special role, they weren't a machine gun or an officer or a tank crew, would get an M1 Garand.
Can you describe M1 Garand a little bit more? Like, was it more of a sniper, a one-shot? Like, how was it used?
So it was a semi-automatic rifle, and in the days, this was before something like the Sturmgewehr at the end of the war. It was an accurate rifle, but by no means was it fast. It was long, it wasn't close quarters combat, which is why you see something like the submachine gun, but it did its job very well.
So, I do have another question for the Pacific Theater. Did they use the same style of guns, or did they have different ones? What do you...
So, the best way to explain that is the European theater was the Army, and the Pacific theater was the Marine Corps. There was the same type of weapons. The majority of them were the same, but in the early wars, the Marine Corps is still underfunded like it is today. So you'd get something like the Rising submachine gun, which is based off of an M1A1, but a lot cheaper. So usually...
What's an M1A1?
So the M1A1 is the Thompson submachine gun that we went over.
Can you go over that one more time?
So yeah, think of that as not as strong of a cartridge, but it shoots really fast, so you could get the rounds downrange. It was a close quarters weapon, so 164 yards and in. It would be highly effective.
Oh, thank you, Jack, for giving us all this information. You want to add a little bit anything else before our closing?
I'm going to say one more thing. If you see surplus in your area, buy it. Prices are going up.
It's true. Jack, what is surplus for those who don't know?
Anything sold by the military.
So
Overstocked by the military.
So it's an overstock store that Jack has been to a lot of times, and he probably has a few of these. Jack, do you own any of these?
I refuse to comment.
Okay, that was very interesting, and I'm kind of scared now that he will not tell us which guns he owns out of here, or if he does. But we'll go right to our spot. Oh, actually, yes.
I can say I do not own a nuclear warhead.
That makes me feel a lot better. Now time for our sponsored segment. As you see, we have no sponsors, but we may have one for the next episode. If you would like to sponsor, you can tell us in the comments or reach out to me. For a recommendation, again, I am going to recommend Axis and Allies. I know I did it for the last 2 episodes. This will be the last episode I recommend it because it's such a good game. You have to get it. Jack, what do you have to say about Axis and Allies?
It's a very great game, and for a movie, I also recommend Saving Private Ryan. It's one of the most ultra-realistic war movies ever created. Even World War II veterans who have been on D-Day say it's really realistic.
Okay, you heard Jack. Check that out as well, too. Again, thank you all for joining. I know this episode may have been a little bit longer since half of us didn't understand what Jack said, but he gave us a brief overview. Hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you next episode. Oh, wait, don't leave yet. Just one more quick thing to say. Jack is going to be joining us next week to talk about German firearms. We may talk about a little bit of boats and planes as well, too. But I know you guys all love Jack, and if you really do, you can come and check him out next episode, and you can go back to the screen.